He's an engineer, Smart Grid on National Standard 201. This is his subject today. And this is the introduction to Standard 201. He's the guy of standards. We'll define an abstract, object-oriented information model to enable appliances and control systems to manage electrical loads and generation sources to communicate information about these electrical loads to the utilities and other electrical service providers. The determined model will allow smart grid, interaction between electrical loads and electrical generation facilities. Please welcome David Underwood. A big applause, please. Thank you so much. David, anything else? We have half an hour, David, okay? Last 10 minutes, I'll give you a signal.
Hello?
Take your time, no rush.
You guys want to dance in this kind of weather? I mean, the AC's not on. That's the problem. That's the problem. Okay, electricity has been restored throughout the city. Okay, that's good. But the AC is still on. We need that energy.
excuse me for all the technical glitches. I tried very hard to get it, set up before I arrived, but somehow or another, as we all know, technology that we've been talking about today sometimes fails us. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'd like to follow up some of my former fellow speakers with a quote. This comes from a presidential member, Billy Manning, who was president of HVAC-R in 1994, which was our 100th anniversary. And his theme was building on the shoulders of giants. And I'd like to suggest that speakers before me are the giants upon whose shoulders I'll try to build this talk. So you may see some things that are the same as in some of the other slides, but I'm trying to build on those shoulders. So please bear with me. Good afternoon. Because it's now afternoon. Hello. Hello. I don't think anybody's out there. Hello. Hello. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you about the smart grid. Also, I'd like to thank ASHRAE Standards Committee 201 who assisted in developing this presentation. Smarter systems, smarter appliances, and smarter designers make smarter buildings. Smart building systems exhibit characteristics analogous to human intelligence. These characteristics include drawing conclusions from data, interpreting that data to reach new conclusions, then making decisions and taking action without being programmed to take any specific action. Smart technologies offer opportunities to reduce energy use and cost, while improving the performance of HVAC and our systems. So the question is, where are we now? How will we get to a future smart grid? I hope to share an understanding of the impending changes in electric consumption, distribution, and generation. The U.S. National Electric Grid has been called the supreme engineering achievement of the 20th century by the National Academy of Engineering in the U.S. However, national grid systems have been developed around the world, including many of the countries that are here today. These systems allow large-scale generation to be distributed to connected energy consumers. Historically, electricity consumption was viewed as a collection of dumb loads at the end of one distribution system. There was almost no interaction between the electricity generation and the people responsible for its distribution. The existing power grid generates electricity primarily through burning coal, transmitted through power lines, and is distributed to homes and used in real time. Currently, there are no large storage capabilities for electricity, although they are being developed. The grid is one of the most significant engineering accomplishments, as I said, in the last century, but it's pretty dumb. For example, in many cases, the power company doesn't know that your power is out until you phone them. We need to upgrade this existing grid with communications and intelligence. Today's electric grid isn't much different than it was 100 years ago, with a one-way flow of electricity. Electricity generators have developed business models to regulate electricity production without communicating with the customers, with time of use rates which vary through the course of the day related to the demand charges which are related to a period of time, usually a month, or ratchet charges which are similar to demand charges but are usually on an annual basis. In general terms, power generation, power transmission, and mechanical systems for commercial and residential appliances and operations and control systems all must work like one giant continuous system to match load with supply and reduce costs. This means standards are needed to make sure all technologies work well with one another, which they don't do currently. Thermal storage load shifting can reduce electricity costs, but may increase total power consumption due to the inherent inefficiencies of heat transfer. A building automation system may cause unnecessary occupant discomfort if it responds to demand in one building that is different from the requirements of other buildings on the grid. Designing to optimize the use of power consumption may not align with the business model to minimize profitability. The profit centers may conflict with societal demands to reduce the use of fossil fuels. With the introduction of distributed energy resources, the grid is being modified. Distributed energy resources add capacity to the grid, but only communicate with the large generators on a contingency basis. Distributed energy resources are usually a small behind-the-meter generation to individual customers. Output from multiple units can meet part of the regular electricity demand. And community solar generators produce renewable energy for customers that use it. These customers have inadequate space for on-site to meet their needs. Now there's a suggestion by Dr. Holm about that building in New York. It's tough on a high-rise building to find enough surface to get solar generation which will look after the power. I'm going to tell you a little story, however, about a new building in Greece, which is their opera house. They have a roof that actually generates 1.5 megawatts of energy through solar, and it provides the solar, and that solar provides electricity for that total building system, and there's a library also attached to it. It's quite a phenomenal thing to see. Now, microgrids and nanogrids are different in scale, and I think Tim mentioned that before. Nanogrids usually fill one residence or a small building, whereas microgrids supply a limited series of buildings. Both use a coordinated combination of solar and or wind generation with battery storage capacity and capability. The duct chart indicates possible consequences of distributed energy resources if it becomes a significant portion of the electrical supply. This chart was generated in California in midday, and it provides a significant portion of grid requirements during the daytime. And that's the belly of the duct curve that you can see on this slide. As the sun declines, the neck of the duct relies on main grid generation. Voltage rises and falls depending on the number of users. Voltage is actually very important and must be maintained between certain critical numbers to make sure sensitive equipment connected to the grid is not destroyed or damaged. With distributed energy resources, it is more difficult to maintain a synchronous grid. These small grid connections to the main grid must remain synchronized with the main grid itself. A transfer switch can isolate the micro and nano grids if there are main grid problems. Working with third-party providers to ensure all systems function together efficiently. Be aware, however, many electric vehicles charging simultaneously, known as cluster charging, is unpredictable, unlike HVAC system and requirements that can assess electrical requirements during time, because we understand exactly how we work through time of the day. Consider the implication of the building attached to the Internet of Things, which may affect HVAC systems. Examples are smart thermostats through to individual biometric devices, feeding data through the Internet to the building automated control system. I think Tim mentioned this thing about biometric data and that sort of thing during his presidential year, and that those things are wonderful, but if we get so much data, we don't currently know how to really look after the property to get it introduced into the system in a smart grid. There are many factors to consider as we plan for the future, such as population growth, which has been mentioned, electrical demand, and sources of energy. Population is estimated to increase from 7.2 billion currently to 9.78 billion by 2050. With a number of people living in the cities getting larger, and cities the size of Singapore, which is 5.5 million people currently, will be built every month until 2050. Just consider that. 85% of that population has electricity, with the other 15% really wanting it. And most electricity, as we've heard, is consumed in buildings. And by 2040, this is another factor, 1/3 of all vehicles will be electric. Currently, 40% of electricity is coal generated. 70% of the CO2 emissions come from the coal-fired electricity generation. But coal also contributes other human health-related emissions in terms of its, its 2.5 particle emissions and other toxic products. Renewable energy and storage are increasing, however, which will help us in the future grid system. Not working. The vision of the smart grid changes the picture radically. The driving goals of the smart grid are greater efficiency with less need for asset replacement and system expansion. The smart grid increases the reliability by applying sensors and control to detect imminent failures before they occur. The smart grid enables dynamic grid operation. It accommodates penetration of wind and solar, and electric vehicle charging is managed through idle capacity while preventing overload of the distribution systems. In a smart grid, facilities become full partners in supporting and managing the electrical load or grid. Still not working. There it is. In a smart grid distribution, utilities offer infrastructure to third-party providers and aggregators that sell electricity. The transmission operators can account for resources and assets from distribution and bulk generation portions of the grid, as well as include distribution when controlling grid operations. And generation is evolving for greener sources like renewable energy and natural gas. Flexible and fast ramping resources, such as energy storage, which are being improved all the time. ASHRAE and the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, or NEMA, has developed a standard that will define an object-oriented information model. The objective is to enable appliances and control systems in homes, buildings, and industrial facilities to manage electrical loads and generation sources in response to communications with a smart electrical grid. It would also allow communications to utilities and other electrical service providers. The standard is known as Standard 201, the Facility Smart Grid Information Model. Its acronym, as you know, actually needs a new acronym when anything happens. It is FSGIM, the Facility Smart Grid Information Model. In spite of its success and its impact on our lives, the electric grid is under strain from increasing demand and aging infrastructure. And you certainly see that in major countries or major population countries like India and Pakistan. The electrical demand is becoming ever more increasing, and that's putting a lot of strain on all the systems. Possibly not so much in North America. Our population is not growing as rapidly, and so, however, that infrastructure is aging, so it needs to be replaced or repaired. The renewable generation sources connect to buildings will become increasingly important in the future. Also, as I've stated before, more electric vehicles will be plugged into those buildings. The grid needs modernization, especially when you consider that buildings account for about 72% of all electrical energy consumption, with 40% in commercial buildings and 32% in residences. The proposed standard identifies potential for connected equipment to become smarter. Appliances and equipment will have the capability to automatically respond to signals from power generators when there is a need to reduce demand. For example, appliances used in homes could take advantage of low electricity prices at certain times of the day while minimizing electricity use during utility system peak periods. Examples are running a washing machine or a dishwasher in the middle of the night when electric demand would likely be lower, or having a freezer that would skip a defrost cycle during peak periods. The new standard is part of ASHRAE's contribution to the smart grid. There is an interoperability panel. Is a private-public partnership initiated by the U.S. National Institute of Science and Technology, or NIST, which Standard 201 was identified as a priority need by the Smart Grid Interoperability Panel. Now, I think this is very important for all the ASHRAE members in this room. ASHRAE was asked to lead the development of the standard because of its stature in the industry and its track record of working collaboratively with other standards development organizations. The National Electrical Manufacturers Association has been our partner and co-developer of this standard as an example of our collaboration with other groups. In addition to the standard itself, we have published a user's guide, which I'll talk a little bit about this later, but it's important to have this document. And BACnet will be a leader in all this procedure. Upgrading of grid components and systems with new functionality and communications capability requires interoperability. To have interoperability of equipment and systems requires reliable standards and verified performance. We look to tomorrow's smarter grid with a two-way flow of electricity and information, the intelligence infrastructure. Oops, I've done it again. Standard 201, the Smart Grid Information Model, or as I said, FSGIM, is a collaborative standard developed by ASHRAE and the National Electrical Manufacturers Association, known as NEMA, which is to tell you that all organizations want to have a whole bunch of acronyms. As this is an 836-page document, I will try to offer a very simple explanation. The purpose of this standard is to define an abstract, object-oriented information model to enable appliances and control systems in homes, buildings, and industrial facilities to manage electrical loads and generation sources in response to communication with a smart electrical grid. To communicate information about these electrical loads to utilities and other electrical service providers. The standard is a basis of information exchange between control systems and end-use devices independent of the communications protocol in use for those devices. And it provides a common base to describe, manage, and communicate about electrical energy consumptions and forecasts. The model defines data objects and actions supporting a wide range of many management applications. The user's manual complements the standard with background information for developing the FSGIM. The manual offers a simplified explanation of Standard 201, and it is used to enhance understanding of this very complex modeling system. And it is a modeling system. Back-end architecture was internet compatible in its original concept. It is suitable for building Internet of Things before the concept was known by the nature of its backbone architecture. And this is very important for the use of FSGIM. Because back-end systems currently use Internet protocol for faster integration over long distances. ASHRAE and NEMA developed the Facility Smart Grid Information Model to guide evolution of building automation systems. FSGIM is an information model. It is a model to guide enhancement to the backend. The energy management components uses the weather exchange model. And the model includes weather observations, hazards, and forecasts. Using modeling language version 1.1.1, it was tailored to identify a subset of classes needed for FSGIM weather data. Normalized primitive data types and inherited attributes which are simplified by hand assembling equivalent classes. Enumerations were coerced to the style and stereotypes of FSGIM. Detailed descriptions are given for modeling, facility, and overview diagrams. The user's manual explains universal machine language and the model objects that are shown in the diagrammatic explanations throughout the standard. And we end up with an integrated model for communicating on the backend architecture. Detailed descriptions are given for modeling in the standard, including devices, people, organizations, and machines. If several components fulfill a function, all of these roles are identified.
Abe, you have like 10 minutes to go.
Okay, I'm going to make it.
Yeah, I know, you did good.
To meet the needs of diverse facilities, it is necessary to structure the FSGIM in a way that enables considerable flexibility and scalability. The approach taken was to define an information model that consists of 4 major building blocks: the load component, the meter component, the generator component, and the energy management component. The model components include availability classes, which expresses the time range that can be sequenced or scheduled. The interval class, which represents an interval of time that pertinent data can be collected. The local time parameter, which is related to the facility, of course. And the sequence class, which is a set of time-related ordered intervals. There are several other identified external source events in the FSGIM. As time passes, interval data container instances will be created to hold the building data. Enumeration is a general indication of the health of a device. The primitive data types were normalized to FSGIM common types. The FSGIM is intended to be a basis for new and existing protocols that support smart grid devices, not replacing them, but fostering their interoperability. Each FSGIM conformance block defines a subset of the model which targets standard may elect to conform. In other words, the FSGIM, if you're modeling a thermostat or something to tie into the backend system, it tells you how to do that for interoperability. Much like we do with BACnet now, where the chillers that are produced have their internet protocol so they can actually tie into BACnet to go into a building control system. Each block has a, may elect to conform to different standards. The method chosen for insurance conformance, however, must be specified. The sample conformance blocks include multiple emission blocks, the measurement blocks, and the model rule sets, as well as detailed high conformance diagrams. In conclusion, today's electric grid is deteriorated and is not capable of meeting growing electrical demand. An interim solution is to add distributed energy resources to the mix, but we need to upgrade to smart grid technology. The use of smart grid technology like ASHRAE Standard 201 is one of the possible solutions. So thank you very much for your attention, and excuse me for all the difficulties we have in technology. And if you've got any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Thank you so much. Even though we have a late start, but you have done a great job, and you finalized it just on time. Perfect. Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Gentlemen, these young gentlemen are our HVAC student members. They are here supporting us. Can you come here so we can have a little gift for him? I would like also, for the presentation of the gift, I would like to introduce Mr. Mehmet Şanal again for this lovely handcrafted gift. No rush, please, no rush. Okay? All right. Take your time, no problems. Thank you so much for making this lovely presentation.
Thank you.
Mr. Mehmet, thank you for your support. I can take it back from you. Thank you so much. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please big applause to Mr. David Underwood. Please, thank you so much again. Was careful. Okay, now we will have a break, lunch break, and today, as you know, it's a Friday. For Muslim people, there is the Friday prayer. If anyone needs to go to the prayer, there is a shuttle bus now. If you can go to the lobby, you can take a shuttle bus to a closed mosque so you can offer your prayers. Thank you so much for making a wonderful morning for me and for everyone.